welcome to the Board Business Channel. Spike this right. There's this company, MA-tek, and they're like super important to the whole semiconductor world, but like nobody's talking about them.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising, isn't it? I mean, they're like a really important part of TSMC's supply chain. You know, TSMC, like the biggest chip maker on the planet, but like everybody's going crazy about Arizona and they're just sort of laying low.
Okay, so for like the rest of us who haven't like been taking apart microchips over the weekend, what exactly does MA-tek do?
Okay, so imagine this. Your fancy new phone decides to like take a permanent vacation.
Oh no.
It's brick, totally brick.
Yeah.
MA-tek is like the CSI team that swoops in, figures out what went wrong, and then helps to prevent it from ever happening again.
Oh, so they're like tech detectives.
Yeah, kinda.
That's so cool, but like, how does that actually work? Do they have like little tiny magnifying glasses for looking at circuits?
Well, kind of. They have these incredibly powerful microscopes that can like zoom in at the atomic level. We're talking like seeing the individual atoms that make up a material.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
Atoms. Like the teeny tiny building blocks of everything?
Yeah.
I'm just picturing like a bunch of scientists in lab coats huddled around a microscope like, ooh, look at that silicone atom. It's wearing a tiny little hat.
Well, maybe not the hats, but you get the idea. This atomic level analysis is a really big part of what they do. It's called materials analysis, and it's all about understanding like the composition and structure of the materials that are used in electronics.
Okay, so materials analysis is like getting a super detailed blueprint of a material's DNA.
Right.
But like, why is that so important?
Because the arrangement of those atoms, even like tiny imperfections, can have a huge impact on how that product actually performs. Think of it like, you know, baking a cake.
I love cake.
If you swap out butter for oil or like overbeat the eggs, you're going to get a very different result.
Yeah, totally. One time I tried making a cake and it ended up looking like a pancake that got attacked by a badger.
Okay, so yeah, bad ingredients or a messed up process equals a messed up product.
Yeah, got it.
And in the world of electronics, where things are getting smaller and smaller and more complex all the time, that kind of precision is absolutely crucial. So MA-tek helps companies make sure that their materials are top-notch and that their manufacturing processes are totally dialed in.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So they're like quality control gurus, but like on a microscopic level.
Yeah.
But what about when things go wrong?
Yeah.
Like even with the best ingredients and the perfect recipe, sometimes the cake still falls flat.
Right. Well, that's where their failure analysis expertise comes in.
Okay.
So something goes wrong with the product.
Wow.
They send it to MA-tek, and then they become those detectives that we were talking about before.
Right.
They use all sorts of techniques, X-rays, high-powered imaging, even things like spectroscopy to figure out exactly what caused the failure.
Spectroscopy. Okay,
Yeah.
now you're just showing off.
Okay.
Break that down for us non-sciencey folk. What does that even mean?
So basically, it's a way of analyzing the light that's emitted or absorbed by material.
Okay.
Different elements and compounds have unique signatures when it comes to light. And so spectroscopy can help identify what's there and how it's behaving. It's kind of like a fingerprint for materials.
So they shine a special light on the broken gadget, and it's like, aha, the culprit is excess copper in the third layer of the circuit board.
Pretty much, yeah.
But they probably wouldn't say, aha, in such a dramatic way.
Oh, what?
I know. But it's more fun that way.
Okay.
So failure analysis is like playing detective to solve tech mysteries.
Right.
But what's the point of figuring out why something broke after it's already broken?
Well, that's the key. It's not just about fixing that one broken gadget.
Okay.
It's about preventing future failures.
Okay.
By figuring out what went wrong, companies can improve their designs, their manufacturing processes, even their choice of materials.
Right.
It's all about making things more reliable and preventing those bricked phone situations in the first place.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Prevention is better than cure and all that jazz.
Exactly.
But isn't there like a ton of pressure in this field? I mean, technology is changing like so fast, it must be really hard to keep up.
It is. And that's actually where MA-tek's third area of expertise comes in. Reliability analysis.
Okay.
They have these crazy labs where they can simulate all sorts of real-world conditions.
Oh, wow.
Extreme temperatures, vibration, humidity, you name it.
Wow.
To see how products hold up under stress.
So they're basically like torturing gadgets to make sure that they're tough enough for real life.
Pretty much, yeah.
I like it. It's like those crash test dummies that they use for cars, but for our phones and laptops and stuff.
Exactly. They want to see if those gadgets can handle being dropped, jostled around in a backpack, or like left out in the sun.
Right.
And the data that they gather from these tests helps companies design more robust products, set like appropriate warranty periods, and just generally make sure that their tech can survive out in the wild.
Okay, so we've got the three main areas: materials analysis, failure analysis, and reliability analysis. It's all about making sure tech is built right, figuring out why it breaks, and making sure it can handle the craziness of everyday life.
Exactly.
But here's the thing we mentioned earlier, that MA-tek hasn't like jumped on the Arizona bandwagon like everybody else. Why is that?
Yeah, it is interesting, right? Especially with the whole semiconductor boom that's happening over there.
Right.
You'd think a company like MA-tek, with its close ties to TSMC, would be all over that.
Totally. Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher. But, you know, I was talking to my friend Steve the other day.
Steve.
Yeah, Steve. He's the executive director of the Arizona Taiwan office. And he's always got like his finger on the pulse of all these industry developments.
Right.
Yeah, he's convinced that there are massive opportunities for companies like MA-tek in Arizona.
Yeah.
The demand for their expertise is only going to increase as more and more semiconductor companies set up shop there.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. But why haven't they made a move yet?
Well, maybe they're waiting for the perfect moment, or perhaps they're just being super strategic about their entry into the market. Who knows? But one thing's for sure, MA-tek is a company to watch.
I agree.
They're kind of under the radar right now.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that they're about to make some big waves.
Yeah, I think so too. They've got the expertise, the track record, and the potential to be a major player in the global semiconductor landscape.
Totally. Okay, so we've talked about the why behind MA-tek's services, but let's get into a little bit more the how.
Yeah.
You mentioned these like super-powered microscopes that they use for materials analysis.
Right.
What are we talking about here? Electron microscopes.
Yeah.
Scanning, tunneling microscopes. Is there like a microscope that makes you a sandwich while you're looking at atoms? Because that's the one I want.
I haven't seen the sandwich-making microscope yet.
But
who knows what the future holds, right?
Right, yeah.
But seriously, MA-tek has an impressive arsenal of tools for analyzing materials.
Yeah.
One of the key ones is the transmission electron microscope, or TEM for short.
TEM sounds very official.
It is.
Hard to do.
Imagine if you could slice a material so thin that it was only a few atoms thick.
Whoa.
That's what a TEM does, essentially. It shoots a beam of electrons through the sample. And by analyzing how those electrons scatter, they can create images of the material's internal structure at an incredibly high resolution.
So it's like looking at a super thin cross-section of a material, but like on an atomic scale?
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is. And they can do even more than just create images.
Right.
They can use techniques like X-ray diffraction and electron energy loss spectroscopy to get detailed information about the chemical composition, the crystal structure, even the electronic properties of the material.
Okay, back up a second. X-ray diffraction.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they use to look at broken bones?
It is, but it's also incredibly useful for studying the arrangement of atoms in materials. You see, atoms in a solid aren't just randomly scattered about.
Okay.
They're arranged in these very specific patterns, kind of like a 3D lattice. So X-ray diffraction allows scientists to figure out what that lattice looks like, which tells them a lot about the material's properties.
So they're basically using X-rays to create like a 3D map of the material's atomic structure.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
It is.
But how does that translate to like real-world applications?
Okay, so let's say a company is developing a new type of semiconductor material. They need to know if the atoms are arranged in the right way for that material to actually function properly.
Right.
So MA-tek can use X-ray diffraction to check that, ensuring that the material meets like the required specifications.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together. Materials analysis is like getting this super detailed blueprint of a material, revealing its hidden secrets and making sure that it's up to snuff.
Right.
But what about those tech detectives that we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Ones who swoop in when a gadget goes kaput?
Yes, the failure analysis team.
Yes.
They've got a whole bag of tricks for figuring out why a product failed. One of their go-to techniques is something called scanning electron microscopy, or SEM.
Is CM another acronym?
I know there are a lot of acronyms.
I'm going to need a cheat sheet to keep track of all these.
Fair enough.
But tell me more.
And SEM uses a focused beam of electrons to scan the surface of a sample. It's kind of like a high-powered magnifying glass that can reveal tiny details like cracks or defects or contamination.
So they're basically looking for any imperfections that could have caused the product to fail.
Exactly. And they don't just look at the surface.
Wow.
They can also use something called a focused ion beam, or FIB, to actually cut into the sample and create cross-sections.
Really?
Yeah, this allows them to examine the internal structure of the device and pinpoint the exact location of the failure.
Wow, so they're like microscopic surgeons slicing and dicing these tiny components to uncover the root of the problem.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
And once they've identified the cause of the failure, they can work with the company to figure out how to prevent it from happening again.
Okay, so failure analysis is like a post-mortem for electronics, but with the goal of preventing future deaths.
Exactly.
I like it, but there are some products out there that seem to be practically indestructible.
Yeah.
Like I swore my old Nokia phone could survive a nuclear blast.
Those old Nokias were pretty tough.
They were.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But even the most durable products need to be tested
to
ensure that they can handle the rigors of real-world use. And that's where MA-Tek's reliability analysis services come in.
All right, tell me more about this tech torture chamber they've got set up.
So they have these sophisticated labs where they can subject products to all sorts of environmental stresses.
Like what?
They can simulate extreme temperatures from freezing cold to scorching hot.
Oh, wow.
To see how the materials and the components hold up.
That makes sense. I know my phone battery definitely doesn't like the cold.
Yeah, exactly. And they can also test for things like humidity, vibration, and even shock. They want to make sure the products can withstand being dropped, bumped, or exposed to the elements.
So it's like putting gadgets through boot camp to make sure they're tough enough for the real world.
Exactly.
I like their style.
Yeah, they're putting these products through the ringer to identify any potential weaknesses or failure points.
But why go through all that trouble? Isn't it easier to just wait until a product breaks and then fix it?
Well, think about it from a business perspective.
Okay.
If a company releases a product that's prone to failures, it's going to cost them a lot of money in warranty claims, repairs, and lost customer trust.
Yeah, for sure.
So reliability analysis helps companies avoid those costly mistakes by identifying and addressing any potential issues early on.
It's not just an expense, it's an investment in the long-term success of a product.
Right.
And I guess when you're talking about cutting-edge technology, you can't really afford to cut corners on quality and reliability.
Exactly. And with the increasing complexity of electronic devices, the demand for MA-Tek's expertise is only going to grow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which brings us back to Arizona.
Ah, yes, Arizona, the land of opportunity for semiconductor companies. But so far, not for MA-Tek.
It is kind of curious, isn't it?
Yeah.
With all the new fabs.
Fabs.
Yeah, fabs, fabrication plants, semiconductor fabrication plants that are being built in Arizona. You'd think MA-Tek would be eager to establish a presence there.
Right. Especially with their close ties to TSMC.
Right.
You'd think they'd be right there alongside them, helping to ensure the success of these new fabs.
You would?
But, as we discussed earlier, they've been keeping a low profile.
Yeah, so perhaps they're waiting for the right moment to make their move, or maybe they're taking a more cautious approach, carefully evaluating the market before making a major investment.
Yeah, that's possible. But whatever their strategy is, it's definitely working for them. I mean, they're a highly successful company with a global reach. But I have to admit, I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't jumped on the Arizona bandwagon yet.
I understand your surprise. Yeah, it does seem like a logical next step for them. But, my friend Steve.
Steve from the Arizona-Taiwan office.
The very same.
Okay.
Well, he's been following MA-Tek's progress very closely, and he's convinced that they have a huge opportunity in Arizona. He believes that their expertise would be invaluable to the companies setting up shop there.
Right.
And he's confident that they will eventually make a move.
Well, if Steve says so, it must be true.
Right.
He's got a pretty good track record when it comes to predicting these things.
He does.
And, thinking about MA-Tek's potential in Arizona, it makes me realize something.
What's that?
We've been focusing a lot on the technical aspects of MA-Tek's work. The microscopes, the analysis techniques, the rigorous testing.
Right.
But there's something else that's equally important to their success.
What's that?
They're people.
They're people.
Yeah, they're people. You see, MA-Tek is known for having an exceptional team of engineers and scientists, people who are not only brilliant in their respective fields, but also incredibly passionate about what they do.
It's true. Yeah, you need smart, dedicated people to do this kind of work.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just technical skills. MA-tek has cultivated a company culture that values innovation, collaboration, and continuous learning.
Right.
They encourage their employees to think outside the box, to challenge assumptions, and to constantly push the boundaries of what's possible.
It's a very dynamic environment.
Yeah, so it's not just about having the right equipment and the right processes, it's also about having the right people with the right mindset.
Precisely. And that's something that's often overlooked when people talk about success in the tech industry.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the latest gadgets and gizmos, but at the end of the day, it's the people who make it all happen.
Exactly. And in MA-tek's case, their commitment to fostering a culture of excellence has been a key factor in their success.
Absolutely. All right, so we've talked about MA-tek's technical prowess, their potential role in Arizona's semiconductor boom, and the importance of their company culture.
Right.
But, as much as I love, diving deep into the technical details, there's one question that's been kind of nagging at me.
I'm all ears.
What's it like to work at MA-tek? I mean, we talked about their boot camp training program, but beyond that, what's the day-to-day experience like for their employees?
That's a great question, and one that I, unfortunately, don't have a definitive answer to. But I can tell you this. Based on everything we've learned about MA-tek, their commitment to excellence, their focus on innovation, their supportive and collaborative culture,
Right.
I have a feeling that working there is probably pretty darn amazing.
Yeah, I'm getting that sense, too. It sounds like they've created an environment where people can really thrive and do their best work.
I think so, too. And, in today's competitive job market, that's a pretty valuable asset.
Absolutely. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about MA-tek's core services, their potential role in the Arizona semiconductor landscape, and the importance of their company culture. But before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
What's that?
The people.
Yeah.
You said that MA-tek is known for having an exceptional team of engineers and scientists. But what makes them so special? What qualities do they possess that set them apart from the rest?
That's an interesting question, and to be honest, it's a bit difficult to pinpoint exactly what makes the MA-tek team so unique. But I think it's a combination of factors.
Like what?
Well, for starters, they're all incredibly talented and knowledgeable in their respective fields.
Right, they have to be to work at a company like MA-tek.
Exactly, but beyond that, they share a certain passion for their work. They're driven by a desire to understand, to solve problems, and to push the boundaries of what's possible.
So it's not just about punching the clock and collecting a paycheck.
Right.
It's about making a real difference.
Exactly. They're driven by a sense of purpose, a belief that their work is contributing to something bigger than themselves.
I like that. It's not just a job, it's a calling.
I think that's a great way to put it, and that sense of purpose is palpable in everything that MA-tek does.
Yeah, okay, so we've established that MA-tek has a stellar team of passionate and dedicated individuals.
Yeah.
But what about the company itself? What kind of leadership do they have? What's their vision for the future?
Well, MA-tek is led by a team of very experienced executives with a deep understanding of the semiconductor industry. They have been at the forefront of innovation for decades, and they have a very clear vision for the future of the company.
And what is that vision?
To be the world's leading provider of analytical services for the semiconductor industry and beyond.
Wow.
They want to help their clients develop and manufacture the most advanced and reliable electronic devices imaginable.
That's a pretty ambitious goal.
It is.
But, based on everything we've learned about MA-tek, I wouldn't bet against them.
I agree. They have the talent, the technology, and the drive to achieve anything they set their minds to.
Absolutely. All right. So we've talked about MA-tek's technical expertise, their company culture, their leadership, and their vision for the future.
We have.
But there's one thing we haven't really discussed.
What's that?
Their financial performance.
Huh.
How are they doing as a business?
Well, MA-tek is a privately held company, so they don't publicly disclose their financial information.
Okay.
But based on industry reports and their overall growth trajectory, it's safe to say that they're doing quite well.
Yeah, I'm getting that sense too. They seem to be firing on all cylinders.
They are, and their success is a testament to their commitment to excellence, their focus on innovation, and their ability to adapt to the ever-changing demands of the semiconductor industry.
For sure. Okay. So MA-tek is a highly successful company with a bright future ahead of them.
Yes.
But, as we wrap up this discussion, I can't help but wonder,
What's that?
what's next for MA-tek?
Yeah.
What challenges and opportunities lie ahead for them?
That's a great question, and one that only time will tell.
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say that MA-tek will continue to play a vital role in the advancement of semiconductor technology.
Yeah, I think so too. They're a company that's always pushing the boundaries, always looking for ways to improve and innovate.
Exactly. And their relentless pursuit of excellence is what sets them apart from the competition.
All right, so as we bring this episode to a close, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We've talked a lot about MA-Tek's role in the semiconductor industry. But what about their potential impact on other industries?
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, could their expertise in materials analysis, failure analysis, and reliability analysis be applied to other fields like healthcare, energy, or even space exploration?
That's a fascinating question, and to be honest, I think the answer is a resounding yes.
Really?
Yeah, MA-Tek's expertise is transferable to a wide range of industries.
I'm starting to see that too. Their ability to understand materials at the atomic level, to identify and solve complex problems, and to ensure the reliability of critical components could have far-reaching implications.
Absolutely. And as technology continues to advance and converge, I think we'll see MA-Tek's expertise becoming increasingly valuable across a wide range of sectors.
Well, on that note, I think we've given our listeners a pretty good overview of MA-Tek and their role in the tech world.
I agree, and I hope this episode has inspired our listeners to think about the hidden forces that drive technological innovation.
Me too. All right, that's it for this episode of the Board Business Channel. Thanks for tuning in.
It's been a pleasure.
Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.